A sobering look at the reality thousands of dreamers could face if they are deported from the U.S. Plus, the future of manufacturing in Michigan. Also, the art of agreeing to disagree. And the inspiration behind some of the funniest political cartoons. Join me. My Week starts right now.
Did you know Roush Enterprises was selected by Google to assemble a test fleet of 100 prototype self-driving cars in 2015? It also produced the new Domino's delivery cars. And speaking of Domino's, Domino's sells well over 2 million pizzas per day around the world, and half of their sales are digital. These are just some of the ways Michigan's pioneers started out as small companies with big ideas.
We are business leaders for Michigan. We are committed to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding for this program is provided by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.
Hi there, I'm Christy McDonald, and welcome to My Week. We hope you're enjoying the Thanksgiving holiday with family and friends, and we have a great show for you coming up. Stephen Henderson and Nolan Finley explain the art of agreeing to disagree at a time when listening to different political views seems pretty toxic. Plus, I have an interview with the chairman of the National Association of Manufacturers. He shares his thoughts about growing manufacturing in Michigan and the U.S. Plus, a Detroit coach needs your help to become CNN's Hero of the Year. You'll see what he's doing to make a difference in kids' lives. And the inspiration of a political cartoonist. You'll step inside the office of Mike Thompson from the Detroit Free Press. That is all coming up for you on My Week. But we are going to start with a One Detroit special report on the impact of deportation. We've been following immigration policies and the stories of the families affected. And this fall, we sent reporters to Mexico, following up on the story of what life is like after someone is deported to a country they left as a child. They found a Detroit man making a new life after he was sent back to Mexico. Jose Flores was deported after getting a DUI, completely in line with our policies. But the poverty and the uncertainty Jose now lives in could be the fate of thousands of so-called dreamers, undocumented immigrants who could have to leave the U.S. when Congress decides what to do this spring. Bridge Magazine reporter Chastity Pratt-Dawsey has the story.
Former Detroiter Jose Flores was deported to the state of Guanajuato, Mexico earlier this year. Now he helps his father run a warehouse that stores agricultural goods. Flores was deported from Southwest Detroit after pleading guilty to driving under the influence.
Well, this is the back of the warehouse.
Now he's starting to adjust to his new surroundings.
It's a little community, so where a couple of my friends live, where the workers live. I mean, this is more where the lower class people live.
How do they treat you today? Are you like a curiosity to them? Like, tell us about America. You know, is it like that or is it?
Yeah, they're constantly asking me about America, and they like to compare their life with what I've been through.
I asked about the kids because I'm like, it's the middle of the day and those kids are just hanging around.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand either. Supposedly they do go to school.
So the kids around here go to school? I mean, what's it like?
Yeah, some of them do go to school. I've met a couple friends that they don't really seem interested in it. They say they go to middle school and probably just drop out, or elementary school and drop out, and they go to work.
Uh-oh. Tell me what it's called again. ¿Cómo se dice? Trompo. Trompo, okay.
¿Y la bruja está trabajando? We could go more into the community if you want to.
Flores said the government owns the property here. The dwellings had been abandoned, but now families live here, and it seems the authorities are fine with it.
They come and they...
Oh, they just squatting, like we call them Detroit squatting, right? There's nobody there, so I'm just gonna move in.
Yeah.
Hello. Buenos días.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. They speak a different kind of Spanish from you.
It's just different accent.
Different words, I bet.
Well, I'm pretty sure they know more words than I do.
Yeah. At home, your family speaks Spanish, but not all the time.
Not all the time. And then I could speak to them in English, and they would still somewhat understand me. It's not the same thing, so. They got little stores, mini stores, like wherever you see the Coca-Cola sign, little corner store. It's right, it's this one. When I first came back here, I was pretty shocked.
You gotta play it cool. You don't want to seem like you are better than nobody because you didn't live this way.
Right.
A very sobering look at a very different life. For all of our One Detroit special reports on immigration policies, just head to MiWeek.org. Well, just last week, I had the opportunity to talk with the chairman of the National Association of Manufacturers, David Farr. He's the CEO of Emerson, and he was in Detroit for the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit. He had a lot to say about the future of manufacturing in the U.S. and Michigan, things we're doing right, and what we have to do to keep up with other countries looking to produce in a global market.
I firmly see the business world today see that we have a window to take America manufacturing up to the next level and compete against the world and regain some of the momentum that we lost over the last 20, 30 years.
So let's talk a little bit about that global competition and maybe some of the things that America is doing right now. Do we have the tools to be able to compete and to get industry to come here to the U.S.?
In my opinion, we do have the tools. I think we have the smartest people in the world. We have innovation right here in the world. We have our location from around the world. If you think about where we're positioned relative to Europe, relative to Asia Pacific, we're in a great location. We have great natural resources. We have great energy. The issue is we need to make sure that we have the right tools from the government side of this to support manufacturing. And why, as I look at what's happened to a company like Emerson over the years, when we moved to Asia, and I ran Asia for a while, we faced the governments over there saying, please come, and they gave us the benefits of the education reform. They gave us the benefits of the taxes. They gave us the benefits, and that created a movement to those countries. I see the desire within the United States right now to try to shift that back, and it will shift back over time. And if you do get the right tax reform, you'll see a lot of international companies that will come into this country because this still is the world's largest economic market. It's still the most important economic market. And I think we still have to generate some of the best innovation in the world. In whatever industry you want to look at, from automotive to an automation industry that I serve today.
All right, so let's talk about some of the technological advances that are coming down the line for manufacturing. What kind of challenges do you see ahead for U.S. manufacturing in that point and trying to keep up with or stay ahead of where the technology is going?
The biggest challenge is educated workforce. And one of the things when we used to meet with the president, and we had 5 things we always talked about. We talked about the tax reform, we talked about regulations, we talked about the infrastructure, we talked about trade. But the 5th one was always education. We've got to change our education processes to develop the next generation of skills that we need as a country. It's something we're lacking, and it will hold us back, not only from people that have the smart people who work on a factory floor, but they have to have technical skills to do that, but also the innovators. And I think that's the biggest issue we face as a nation. But I also believe we can solve that issue. And that's where a big issue is for all manufacturers today. If you go around and talk about, I cannot find the right people that I need to move forward the next innovation. But I fundamentally believe that we have the ability to change that, and we have the ability to drive that next generation into innovation, into manufacturing.
So let's talk a little bit about skills gap, and a lot of people in this room grapple with that. So what have you been doing at Emerson? Give us some of the initiatives that maybe you've been doing to try to close that skills gap.
As the CEO of Ford said the same thing, I think you're talking about Steelcase, we've had to re-educate our workforce. So as we shifted into different technologies or different markets, we've had to take the workers and send them off to schools. Send them to technical schools, send them to what I would say just basic training schools of skills around automation, around the computers. from our standpoint, we as a company are investing millions and millions of dollars a year in STEM education, in technical schools, you know, the trade schools that we need in our world today for the factories. And I think this is something it's really exciting to see. I think in the Midwest in particular, you see the heart of the industry spending money and investing in technical schools. And so we need both at the college education, but just at the technical school level too. And companies like Emerson are putting a lot of money into that. And if I went around the room, I'm sure every company in this industry is doing the same thing.
And to check out more presentations from the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit, just go to MiWeek.org. All right, well, if you watch MiWeek enough, you know about the relationship that Nolan, Stephen, and I have. But especially Nolan and Stephen, they disagree a lot, but they're actually very good friends. So in this world of, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong and crazy and I hate you, Nolan and Stephen were on WDET Public Radio this fall to explore how their upbringing shaped their political and their philosophical views and their unlikely friendship. Take a look.
You and I are able to have this conversation. We're not punching each other.
No.
We're not going to go and smear each other on Facebook tonight or on Twitter, call each other names when we appear on television or radio together. We might disagree bitterly, right?
Oh,
I mean, that doesn't. It
vehemently,
never
yeah.
means that we don't get
fun
into
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah, right. I mean, we get after each other.
We like scrapping.
But it's not. It's never. It's never driven by a disrespect,
No, or a hatred.
or a hatred, and that's a rare space right
But think
now,
about
and it's
it.
rarer even given our positions, right? I mean, our papers are supposed to hate each other. We're supposed to be
Well,
on the other,
Yeah,
want the other's demise.
We're competitive, and I think you and I are competitive, and the papers are, and they should be. But I would attribute it to, I think both of us feel the same way. I want to read and listen to things I don't learn a thing from people who think exactly like me.
Right.
And the one thing I'm worried about today, where people sort of group and cluster with like-minded folks.
And that's what I think is really interesting about this larger discussion. Now, what was this project a part of, you guys sitting down and having this conversation?
It was part of the National StoryCorps project. They were in Detroit for the month of June, I think it was, at the DIA, and someone called and asked me if I wanted to go tell a story with someone. I said, sure, I'll go and
You
bring
picked
Nolan
him,
with
huh?
me. I did.
I think it's really interesting because it brings up the point that we don't even get to know, I think, the people who are speaking, that we're speaking with a lot of times. We don't know their background. We don't understand why they have formed the opinions that they have formed. It feels like that we shut down so much that we only like to hear people that agree with us. And it's getting worse and worse. And both of you mentioned that.
Well, that's a good starting point for any conversation before you start talking about politics, is trying to figure out where the person's coming from, because we automatically assume, as we said there, you don't think like me, well, you're evil, you're stupid, you want to ruin the country, And we had a pretty long conversation during that taping about how our backgrounds shaped our views and how, what's behind our political philosophies, and it's not something we just pulled out of the air. We're a product of a lot of experiences.
Yeah, I have, especially since November, taken to making one of the first questions I ask people when I'm talking to people I don't agree with is, why do you think that? Why do you think you believe the things that you believe, as opposed to just attacking the things that they say they believe and saying why I disagree? I think we've gotten away from that. We've assumed. We now assume that person thinks that because they're bad or they're evil or they want horrible things to happen, and it's not generally true. Most people want things to go well. They may not see the path there the same way.
Especially now, do you guys find that you talk to people and they say to each one of you, how are you friends with that guy? How are you friends with that guy? But what I'm asking is it's been that way, I'm sure, for a while, but is it worse now? Is there a different, like, oh my gosh, how can you even hang out with that guy?
There's less tolerance now, I think, for people who don't think like you, and I think that spills over into this when they see people who just really don't strike the same position on much of anything, hanging out, having a bourbon, having fun. It takes them back. It's like they saw, a unicorn or something. They just don't
They just can't relate. And I think that's unfortunate because the problem solving, the policy making process, it starts with people sort of stating their own beliefs and positions, but also being willing to listen to the other side.
Yeah, but compromise has become that big dirty word, you know?
But that's the offshoot of this. If you're not willing to listen to positions you think you don't agree with, or you don't agree with, and really try to understand them, you can't compromise.
Listening is not a weakness. How do we get that point across?
Well, I mean, you know, one of the things that I've noticed people now do when they're debating or having an argument is they're listening for the opportunity to start talking, right? To say, well, here's why you're wrong, as opposed to actually sitting and listening to what the other person's saying and thinking about it.
The lost art of listening. A Detroit coach is in the running for a pretty cool honor, CNN Hero of the Year. Now, we've introduced you before to Coach Callie Sweeney. He runs programs at the downtown boxing gym on Detroit's east side. More than 125 kids come to the gym not just to exercise or hang out, but to learn how to study, get their schoolwork done, and create new paths in life.
My house is that one right there that's still standing. That's the house I came to when I was 6 weeks old. That's where my parents dropped me off at. I always wondered where was my real family at. So I found that family that I was looking for in the streets. I've been shot at multiple times. I had a guy, he shot 26 rounds at the car. It was a reason that he didn't hit me. It was for me to be here for these kids. If you spend enough time with kids, you'll find out that they're going through the same thing that I was going through. No mentors, no positive role models. You put them in a prime position to be ready for prison or the county morgue. Catch my J. I've been there, for real. So when they hear it from me, they like, okay, he's not sugarcoating it.
Keep your hands above his, let's go.
Boxing teaches you to block out all the outside noises.
Off the jab, double that, triple it, he don't know what to do.
In life, I tell guys, if you listen to all the outside noises, you'll never reach your goal.
That was it, there you go.
It's actually an academic program as well.
Are we going for the title today? All right, cool. So what homework do you have today?
Books before boxing has always been basically the motto here.
Do you have your math ready? Okay, let's get started on it.
We hold our kids at the same standard with counterparts in the suburbs or anywhere around the world. The stuff that we're doing here is the stuff that should be given to everyone. When I first met Jordan, I didn't see the kid that everybody else saw. I don't see bad kids. I see a kid who haven't been heard yet.
You getting in the ring?
If I haven't found Kylie, I think I'll be dead or in jail.
You doing like this, opening up too wide. Your timing is immaculate, you got him. Just keep working, let's go.
He's a savior.
Don't hesitate, just do it.
He taught me how to be a man, basically.
There you go, that's all you gotta do is just do it, Jordan. Just do it.
What's good, man? You all right? Throughout my life looking for that family,
Faint right.
they have become my family.
And you can vote for Coach Callie Sweeney to be CNN's Hero of the Year. Just head to our website at MiWeek.org. And finally tonight, the art of editorial cartoons and the thought behind them. It is not an easy job. Mike Thompson of the Detroit Free Press gave Detroit Performs an inside look at his art and inspiration.
Satire can make the unpalatable palatable. It's a great way of communicating with people and for communicating ideas. An editorial cartoon is such an approachable medium. People can relate to it. And the beauty of it is that you can say things in a single image and a few words that it might take a columnist paragraphs to say. There's a very, very long history of political cartooning in America. In fact, Benjamin Franklin published the first political cartoon in America, the famous Join or Die, Divided Snake. And I think you can approach issues and offer solutions in ways that you can't with the written word. We're a visually oriented society, And I think people are naturally drawn to political cartoons, especially in the current political environment where social satire is so hot. Being a political cartoonist requires a sort of a unique skill set. I mean, you have to understand the news. You have to be able to write and write concisely. You have to be able to draw and have a sense of humor. And caricature is an important part of that. But caricature is just something you teach yourself over years. And it's the process of creating an image that resembles the person but doesn't exactly look like the person. So for example, with Trump, I'm taking his most prominent features, and the trick is to blow them out as much as you possibly can, but still remain true to the general image of Trump. And that can be a challenge sometimes. My sensors are on all the time. I'm constantly thinking, I'm constantly trying to come up with an analogy. People ask where I get my ideas, and there's no set way of coming up with an idea. You don't sit down and say, I'm going to come up with an idea. It doesn't work that way. It sort of comes to you. After I've come up with an idea, then it's a lot of staring at a computer screen, because the drawing itself can take anywhere from 5 hours up. I've spent up to 12 hours on a drawing. The actual caricatures of the people, I draw the old-fashioned way, pen and ink, and then I scan them in. But after that, it's all on the computer. I scan the images in, color them in Photoshop, and then I'm doing the background or other objects. You can do things that were unimaginable when I first started out in this career. The lighting, the color, the texture, it's really an amazing time to be doing this job. Having a point of view that drives your opinion and drives your work is critical. My job is not just to create jokes about the news. My job is to comment on the news in a hopefully funny, pithy, or ironic fashion. And that's going to be driven by my ideology. There's a real appetite out there in America for the type of work that I do. And then you throw into that mix the fact that Donald Trump is in the White House. It's a really exciting time to be doing this job. My job is to get people thinking and get people talking and to advocate for issues and people who have been getting churned up in this current political system of ours. Really, my audience, I hope, would be anyone who is interested in news and interested in the world around them. One of the really nice things about a political cartoon is that you can advocate for issues that might not be getting as much attention. With Trump becoming president, the challenge is to talk about important issues that don't intersect with him. Well, he's president of the United States, so it's sort of hard to come up with ideas that don't intersect with the president of the United States. I mean, even things like the Flint water crisis. Well, today I'm working on some line art for an animation I'm going to be doing on Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. It's an animation about the amount of money that's being spent for her private security. And I'm suggesting that they should instead just give her a voucher and let her hire mall cops. It's empowering, but there's also a huge responsibility that goes along with the job. I'm exaggerating, oftentimes, events. I'm exaggerating what people say. There also has to be a kernel of truth underlying everything that I do. You know, I can't deliberately misrepresent someone's policy position. So, you know, I'm giving them a lot of license, but there is a responsibility, not only in terms of how I approach my job, but in making sure that I stay within the boundaries of common sense and good taste. I get an enormous amount of response to my work, and the response runs the gamut. But even the negative response, I don't mind. If I'm going to put out an opinion in a public forum, then I better be able to take it when people want to tell me what they think of my work. My goal is to start a conversation and to get people thinking. And if they're going to think and take 5 minutes to sit down and write me an email, even if it's negative, they have sat down and thought about it. And that's positive. with everything that's going on in America, you need a laugh, or you need someone who's there who you think gets it and is saying it in public and is saying it in a way that is biting or sarcastic. People are so confused and so upset that when they see someone who can encapsulate what they've been thinking in an image and a few words, it's very powerful. The other part of the job is to stand up for people and issues and causes that don't really get a lot of coverage. Social justice issues, for example. I mean, you look at what's happening in the country with anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism. Those problems existed before Trump, but they've been amplified. And there needs to be people in public positions, in a public forum, pushing back against that. And if you can do it in a biting and sarcastic fashion, all the better.
And that is going to do it for My Week this week. Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson will join me back here next Thursday. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you then.
Did you know Gordon Food Service was started by a 23-year-old entrepreneur as a butter and egg delivery business more than a century ago? In 1948, school teacher Gerard Wendell Hayworth borrowed $10,000 from his parents to start a woodworking operation in his family's garage. It's now Hayworth Incorporated. These are just some of the ways Michigan's pioneers started out as small companies with big ideas.
We are business leaders for Michigan. We are committed to making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, personal income, and a healthy economy. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, Craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Funding for this program is provided by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.